All right, we're going to go ahead and go over the material for section 4.1. It is all about our Cartesian coordinate plane that you guys probably have done before. You know, basically a coordinate plane is the intersection of two number lines. This is the x-axis, and so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This would be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. This is your y-axis, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this would be -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. Know that these continue on. I'm trying to get my timer so I'll know when I need to reset that. It goes past 5, it goes past -5. You see the arrows on both ends, so it actually continues on in all directions. Every point on here has a name. It's like this whole thing is made up of points, not even whole points, if you will, but that's where we're going to stop. So the name of any point on here has basically a first name and a last name. The first name is where it falls on the x. The last name is where it falls on the y. So if I had the point 2, 3, that means I go over 2 on my x. And if you will, if you had graph paper, that would be a line on your graph paper. And at 2 on the x, then I'm going to go up 3 on the y. So I find the 2 on the x, and I go up 1, 2, 3. So that is that point right there. So that would be, we'll call it A. That would be the point 2, 3. If I had, however, the point to -3, I would find 2 on the x, and I would go down 1, 2, 3 on the y, and that would be that point of intersection. So that point right there is called 2, -3. If I have a C point and it says 0, 4, that means I find 0 on the x-axis. This is also what's called the origin, or the point 0, 0, 0 on the x, 0 on the y. So if I had the point 0, 4, I find 0 on the x, and I go up 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y, and that is the point C. Now, these also have different quadrant names. This is the first quadrant. This is the second quadrant. This is your third quadrant. And this is your fourth quadrant. So if I asked you what quadrant something was in, A would be in the first quadrant. B would be in the fourth quadrant. And if it's on either the x or the y, it's not in a quadrant. So I would write none. Okay? You have to be able to put any point on a graph. You have to be able to look at a point on a graph and tell me what it is. So if I had this point, and I go, what is the ordered pair, the first and the last name, that represent that point right there? Well, on the x-axis, I find the -5, but I'm not going up or down, so it's -5, 0. So that would be the name of that point. So in the whole first section, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be putting points on a graph, and then looking at a graph and naming the points that are on a graph. Okay? So that basically is section 4.1. Then we're going to skip section 4.2. We're going to do it in class when we get back together. But section 4.3 is about presenting these in different ways. So there's basically 4 ways to present points. Obviously, you're going to need graph paper to do the graphing on this. So the first way is ordered pairs. So if I have, let's see, I'm just going to make up some points, and we'll name them so that it's easier to put it on a graph. Okay, so that is ordered pairs. The second way is graphing. So now I need my X and Y axis. Now you need to do this on a piece of graph paper, okay? So the point -2, 3, I'm going to go over -2 on my X and go up 3. So that is point A. 4, 1, I'm going to go over 4 and up 1. That is B. -5, -6, I'm going to go over -5, and then I would go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be that point right there. And 5, 0, I'm going to go over, oops, that's a 4. I'm going to go over 5 and up 0, so that would be D. So this is ordered pairs. This is graphing. You must do that part on graph paper. This is a table. This is another way of presenting that information. So I separate X and Y. So I have -2, 3, 4, 1, -5, -6, and 5, 0. Here's my X and here's the Y that goes with it. All the way down. That's the third way the information can be presented. Then you have mapping. Mapping is basically two ovals, one representing the X, the other one representing the Y. The values need to be in numeric order. So the smallest X value I have is -5. Then I have -2, I have 4, and I have 5. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the Y's. I have -6, 0, 1, and 3. Then I draw lines matching. -2 goes with the 3. 4 goes with the 1. -5 goes with the 6. And 5 goes with a 0. Now, if any of these numbers are repeated, you only write it once here. So in other words, if this was a -5 as well, then I wouldn't have that spot, and then this would have 2 arrows coming off of it. Okay? To make sure that I'm covering what's in that. There's not a whole lot here. If they ask you, so we've got all that, that's 4 ways to present the same information. Let's say they asked you for the inverse of this relationship between the X and the Y. If they say inverse, literally all they mean is switch the X and the Y. So this is the inverse of that. This is the inverse of that. This is the inverse of that. And this is the inverse of that. And that pretty much covers the material from section 4.1 and 4.3. So I'm going to go ahead and give you what you need to do homework-wise. Now, if you have a group of points that you have to graph like this, you can put them all on one coordinate plane, but just make sure you label it. Okay, so I want you to do on page 195, I want you to do 14 through let's do 14 through 38. Even. And the section like 26 through 36 can all be done on one coordinate plane. Just make sure you label. And then on page 209, I want you to do, and make sure you read the instructions, because sometimes they're given you as an ordered pair and you have to do it the other 3 ways. Sometimes they give it to you as a table and you have to do it the other 3 ways. So I want you to do 18 through 34 even. Okay?